Hello and welcome to my channel. Warning, listener discretion is advised as this case is one of the most gruesome in Michigan history and involves dismemberment and self-canceling. If you are sensitive to these topics, please do not proceed. Normally, I will tell enough of the story and give a warning before I get into the details of how the person died if it's too graphic. In this story, details are told throughout the video, and there will be only one additional warning. Today's tragic tale takes place in Warren, Michigan. Warren is one of the many Michigan cities Marshall Mathers, known as M&M, lived in growing up. Warren is considered a suburb of Detroit. M&M lived in Warren beginning at age 11, which is the age he started rapping, and stayed in Warren through his young adult life. The year this story took place was 1990, and it is the story of a 15-year-old girl whose name was Stephanie Dubay. Stephanie Dubay was born June 25, 1975 in Warren, Michigan. Her parents had been divorced and she recently moved in with her mother in a mobile home park in Clinton Township. Her father was remarried and lived in St. Clair Shores. She had two half-sisters from her father and stepmother. She had just completed ninth grade at Zoe Christian Academy in St. Clair Shore, which is now Regina High School. And she was a member of New Life Fellowship of Believers in St. Clair Shore. This is the church where she met and befriended AP. AP is how I have chosen to refer to this person. Later in the story, you will understand why. In late June of 1990, Stephanie and her mother argued when her mother told her she couldn't get a rose tattoo. Stephanie ran away. A family friend stated she was prone to running away, but had always returned. On June 26, 1990, Stephanie's mother reported her missing. A friend of AP's said Stephanie had come to stay at this house on Jean Road after running away. The friend said AP's mother was often out of town, so the house was a hangout for teens. He said, quote, she gave her child free rein of the house. On Wednesday, July 11, 1990, sometime between noon and 1 p.m., Stephanie was murdered. At around 2 p.m., AP's cousin, Jaime Rodriguez, also known as Jimbo, had phoned a female friend and told her he had killed someone and had something to show her. The girl came over and they hung out and smoked cigarettes for a while before he showed her the head in the freezer that had been scalped. The girl said she recognized that it was Stephanie by her pretty blue eyes. She said Jamie offered to give her the eyes. Jamie wanted the girl's friend to give him a haircut, so the girl said she would go pick up the friend and come back. She left the house, went and picked up a hamburger for her grandmother, and then picked up her friend and returned to the house. Jaime went down to the basement to get a towel, and the girl took the head from the freezer and put it in a bag and ran from the house. She had the head in the back seat of her car and took it to the police station. I cannot even imagine the guts this girl had to have to see the head and then return to the house and take it. Wow, cannot say I would be so bold. At some point, Jaime realized the head was gone and that the girl must have taken it. So he and AP started moving the body parts to a hole they dug in the backyard. At 3:45 p.m., the police arrived. Stephanie's funeral took place on Tuesday, July 17, 1990. The service was held at Will and Schwarzkopf Funeral Home in Mount Clemens, Michigan. Friends tied cobalt blue ribbons to their car to honor Stephanie. It was her favorite color. Burial took place at Clinton Grove Cemetery. August 1990, the judge ordered psychiatric testing for both AP and Jaime Rodriguez. During his arraignment, the only time AP showed emotion is when his mother entered the courtroom and ran out after she heard the details. Tuesday, September 4th, 1990, 15-year-old AP and his 21-year-old cousin Jaime Rodriguez were found competent to stand trial. Monday, September 17th, 1990, a joint pretrial hearing was held. Both Jaime and AP laughed and joked during the hearing. AP would be tried as an adult. Monday, January 7th, 1991, the judge placed a gag order on the case which banned lawyers from discussing the case with reporters. Tuesday, March 26, 1991, the judge ordered separate trials for both Jaime and AP. Jaime's trial began on June 5, 1991. His defense was that he had a satanic alter ego named Jim who did this, not Jaime. The court was shown a video of Stephanie's head and a tour of the home on Jean Road, and a witchcraft book was found in the kitchen. A taped confession Jaime gave the day of his arrest also played in court. Jaime said that on the 4th of July, Stephanie had been with friends at the fireworks and came home drunk and asked him to give her a 666 tattoo. He claimed he told her she was going to wake up sober tomorrow and regret it, but she kept insisting, so he tattooed her breast with 666. Police confirmed the tattoo did exist. According to a witness statements, Jaime found the girl annoying and tried spending less and less time at the Jean Road house. But when he had no other place to stay, he would sneak in the window to try to avoid her. On July 11th, around 12:30 p.m., Jaime and AP were sitting in the kitchen at the table when AP said, "Let's kill Stephanie," because he didn't like her. Jaime said he didn't like her either and agreed. A friend of AP's had been at the house on July 10th, the night before the murder, and testified that Stephanie was starting to feel uncomfortable at staying at the house. He said he asked her 3 times if she wanted a ride home, but she declined because she was arguing with her mother. He also stated Jaime told him, quote, he didn't like the bitch. Last warning, this is very graphic and disturbing. Please proceed with caution. July 11th, AP and Jaime sharpened steak knives, dug a hole, then laid down newspaper in the basement. Stephanie had been sleeping. AP went back upstairs to wake her up while Jaime waited in the basement. Stephanie was sitting in a chair, and Jaime asked her, "Do you want incarceration or incantation?" When she didn't know how to answer the question, Jaime put his arm around her neck and squeezed it tight to cut off her airway so she couldn't scream. Then AP started stabbing her. She made a noise and fell to the floor. Jaime picked her back up and held her so AP could stab her. Then they proceeded to cut her up. Jaime said he started slicing into her chest and started cutting downward. He cut off her right hand and her index finger, which Jim planned to put on a necklace to wear as a charm. Jaime said that his alter ego Jim took over when they decided to lure Stephanie into the basement. He said neither had discussed dismembering her, but they just kind of read each other's minds and started cutting. He didn't remember if they talked while they were cutting or whose idea it was to remove the skin from her head, but that he finished it off and commented on how easy it was. He said they put the head in the freezer to keep it as a souvenir, then put body parts in plastic bags and put some in the hole in the backyard and some in a Monte Carlo in the garage. June 12, 1991, it took only 40 minutes of deliberation to find Jaime guilty. He was convicted of conspiracy, first-degree murder, and mutilation of a corpse. Stephanie's father made a statement after the conviction, stating he had warned her about the dangers of being out on her own. He knew she had left her mother's, but she had called him to tell him she was all right. He tried to get her to tell him where she was so he could come pick her up. He and his wife and two daughters were planning to leave the following day on a trip to Florida, and he tried to convince her to join them on the trip. The last words she spoke to him was, "Have a good time in Florida." Her father said, "I told her I would take her out for her birthday when he got back from Florida." On July 13th, while driving back to Michigan, he learned on the radio of Stephanie's murder. During the 7-day trial, he had to fight the urge to reach over and grab Jaime, especially when they showed the video of his daughter's head. AP's trial began August 27, 1991. When he appeared in court, he had cut his hair, shaved, and looked clean-cut. A cellmate testified AP bragged about slicing Stephanie from the crotch to her stomach because he had never seen the inside of a girl before. The court was shown the video of Stephanie's severed head. Statements given by AP after his arrest confirmed that they had lured Stephanie to the basement and that Jaime held her while he stabbed her. AP's fingerprints were found on a bloodied hammer and on plastic bags containing the body parts. The hammer was used during the dismemberment of Stephanie's body. September 6, 1991, a jury deliberated for 4 hours and returned a guilty verdict. He was convicted of conspiracy, first-degree murder, and mutilation of a corpse. Stephanie's mother made a statement after AP's conviction saying that Stephanie's room was the way she left it the last time she saw Stephanie 15 months ago. She thinks she might be able to finally start growing through Stephanie's things. She says she is going to try to figure out what normal is without Stephanie. Both AP and Jaime were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Neighbors of the Jean Street house said over the last 2.5 years prior to the incident, there were loud parties and other disturbances, and the police had been called frequently. In 1989, the house was under surveillance for 17 days for drug activity. The investigation failed to produce any evidence. The house on Jean Road became a morbid tourist attraction. The police had to block off both ends of the street and would only let residents on the street through. Once the street got blocked off, it didn't deter people from walking down the street. I have a fascination with stigmatized properties and am starting to add those stories to my channel. Here is what happened to the house in the aftermath. Shortly after the murders, AP's mother abandoned the house. Since the murder, the house had become a target for vandalism, and a little over a month since the murder, on Sunday, August 19, 1990, around 1 a.m., the fire department was called by a neighbor who saw flames coming from the window. The neighbor who reported the fire said the inside of the house was smoke damaged and would probably have to be gutted. However, in October of 1990, the house sold for $40,000, which was $10,000 less than when the house was purchased in 1987. Obviously needed some serious repair. May of 1991, the house got a facelift. The front door and garage had been changed to white, the shutters removed, and the white wooden pillars replaced the wrought iron posts that once adorned the porch. June of 1991, a local news station broadcasted a tour of the newly renovated house and highlighted that a new refrigerator replaced the one Stephanie's head had been found in. I only read about it. I tried like hell to find that broadcast. October 1993, the house sold for $49,800. Seems like whoever bought it barely profited, if it at all, for all the work they put into it. December 1996, it sold for $95,000, but whoever bought it tried to unload it various times but finally had to take a $35,000 loss when it got sold in April of 2009 for $60,000. I think it was still too soon. September 2016, it sold for $139,900. That was quite a profit for whoever bought it for $60,000 in 2009. This part is really intriguing to me. In July of 2022, it was listed for $209,900, but had more than one offer on it, which drove the price up to $218,000, and it sold for the last time in August of 2022. I wonder if the people who bought it know. It had been 32 years since the murder, but I couldn't step foot in that basement, which was boasted about in the listing. Now, I have to share a little bit about the criminals in this case. I normally wouldn't focus too much on the murderers and try to make it mostly about the victim, but there are things about Jaime that need to be said. He was a career criminal. In fact, at the time of the murder, he was on probation from just having served time on an attempted arson conviction. Jaime was 21 years old at the time of Stephanie's murder. He dropped out of Arthur Hill High School in 10th grade, fathered two children, drifted from city to city, and was unemployed. He grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, on Avon Street. Neighbors on Avon Street described the family as hardworking and were stunned when they heard what Jaime had done. There were mixed feelings from people who knew Jaime. Some said he seemed level-headed, cool, like a cool guy, while others said he was troubled. He was described as a drinker but didn't really bother anyone, and was into heavy metal music. He played the guitar and would sing in a satanic voice to try to scare people. He claimed to worship Satan, but some thought he was just joking or using it as a scare tactic. His half-sister said when Jaime's mother was diagnosed with cancer in 1987, she chose to end herself before the cancer did at their home on Avon Street on August 30th, 1987. There are two versions of this story. One is that Jaime and his father witnessed what the mother did during a family argument. The other is Jaime's half-sister witnessed the shooting and ran to a neighbor's house to call 911. Jaime was asleep in the basement, heard the shot, and came upstairs to find his mother lying on the kitchen floor. When his sister returned from the neighbors to say she had called 911, Jaime pushed her to the ground and yelled at her. The mother was still alive and transported to St. Luke's Hospital. Jaime became hostile, and his brothers and sisters had to lock him in the bathroom at the hospital, and police had to be called. His mother ended up passing away, and the half-sister said that is when Jaime lost his way. May 21st, 1989, Jaime got into an altercation with some brothers after a female friend of his said they were picking on her. He went back to the house where the men lived, and they jumped him, so he attempted to start a fire on the porch. He didn't realize the house was an apartment and that a mother with two young children lived upstairs. No one was hurt, but he was arrested and charged with attempted arson. May 22nd, 1990, Jaime was released from serving his 9-month sentence for the arson conviction. While serving time, he received his high school diploma. He told his half-sister he was tired of living his life unemployed and planned to seek training at a trade school and get his life on track. Soon after his release, he met his cousin for the first time, AP. His uncle had just reconciled with AP's mother after being separated for 13 years. AP had went to live with his father in Saginaw after he had been expelled in January of 1990 for continued disobedience from Centerline School in Warren. In Saginaw, he completed 8th grade at North Intermediate School and moved back to Warren when school let out. And that is when Jaime went to stay at the Jean Roadhouse in Warren. June 17th, 1990. Jaime and one of his brothers were at a party on Eddy Street in Carlton, which is a small town in Saginaw County. Jaime and his brother left the party with a 16-year-old girl named Tammy. The three of them went to the girl's house. Jaime pulled a knife on her and wanted her to steal money from her parents and told her they were going for a ride. Jaime hopped in the driver's seat of Tammy's Pontiac Fiero. His brother, who was not charged in the crime, was trying to reason with Jaime to let the girl go. The brother held the girl on his lap in the car to protect her in case Jaime wanted to hurt her. Jaime then started driving the girl's car down to Warren. He stole her purse, which had $15 in it, and left the girl in the parking lot of a donut shop. She called the Warren police and told them what happened, but she claims they told her it was a Saginaw problem. Tammy's mother had to drive down to get her. Maybe had the Warren police done something, all of this could have been prevented. Tammy's Fiero was found in the driveway of the Jean Road house when police made the arrest for Stephanie's murder. It had been stolen for almost a month by then. November 13, 1991, Jaime was sentenced in Saginaw County Circuit Court for extortion and car theft. He admitted to taking the 16-year-old girl and forcing her to drive to Warren. He also tried to get money from her and threatened to hurt her family if she didn't do what he said. He had 3 to 5 years for that conviction tacked on to his 2 life-term murder convictions for murdering Stephanie. After his conviction, authorities were looking into other claims that Jaime may have been responsible for murders in Brownsville, Texas, and Gladwin or Gaylord, Michigan. After an investigation, police turned up nothing and no reports of missing persons in those areas. In March of 1995, Jaime tried appealing his conviction, citing insanity. It was denied. As of 2025, Jaime is still serving his life sentence. AP had a couple brushes with the law prior to this incident. May 19, 1990, he was charged with possession of concealed weapon and controlled substance in Sterling Heights. The police found a knife and marijuana in his possession. June 21, 1990, he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon without intent to commit bodily harm. He allegedly threatened a female but did not harm her. Both times he was released to the custody of his mother with hearings pending, which let him free to commit the murder on July 11, 1990. In 2012, the Supreme Court ruled that juveniles sentenced to life with no parole was unconstitutional. In November of 2019, AP had the chance to go before a judge again to be resentenced. Stephanie's family made the following statement. While this new law may be appropriate and beneficial for some individuals, we do not feel in this case with AP due to the nature of the hideousness of the crime along with the fact that it was premeditated. It is our hope that the judicial system shows continued justice for Stephanie. Macomb County prosecutor promised Stephanie's family he would fight any change in AP's sentence and made the following statement. One of the most notorious and heinous crimes we've had in this county. If the actions of AP aren't enough to ensure life in prison without parole, then no actions are. You know what kind of evil. We just can't let that back on the streets. We're going to argue vehemently against allowing AP to see the light of day. During the resentencing hearing, a retired prison guard testified, I think he would be a very good candidate before the parole board. I think the parole board would look at him in terms of risk factor, in terms of being low risk offender. The defense stated AP had problems as a youth, but has been a model prisoner for the last 20 years. He works in the prison braille program, transcribing textbooks for blind children. He would have a job and a place to stay with his mother should he be sentenced to time served and paroled. The judge resentenced AP to life with the possibility of parole, and in December of 2022, he was released to live with his mother in Saginaw, Michigan. As of January 2025, he has a LinkedIn profile saying he is a freelance Braille transcriber. He has not made headlines again since his release. If you Google this case, you will find his name. I just chose not to share it due to the circumstances. As far as Stephanie, a friend who lived in the same mobile home park where Stephanie and her mother lived said she was the kind of person you wanted to be a friend to, and were proud to have her as a friend. She was not into satanic worship. Her pastor said she was a sweet girl. There's no doubt about it. She had an outgoing personality. The friend who had seen Stephanie the night before her murder and offered her a ride home described her as friendly. Who knows what would have become of Stephanie had she been able to grow up beyond her teenage years? She may have outgrown her teenage angst and realized she was loved. I can't pretend to know what she may have been going through, but perhaps her parents' divorce and remarriages caused some sort of resentment. In any case, she did not deserve what happened to her and had the right to grow up and experience life. I hope Stephanie is resting in peace. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you on the next video.